Hello, dear. Welcome back. That evening, as I found myself in the small hotel room alone with Ethan, life's unpredictability truly hit home. My husband Nathan had been out of town for months, working in a different city. I missed him dearly, but it was not just his absence that pained me. It was his neglect and indifference that really cut deep. How could I have anticipated that requesting my stepson Ethan to escort me would lead to a night of unexpected outcomes in a cramped hotel room with a single bed? The unfolding of events was entirely unforeseen. Let me take you through each detail from the start, for the end of this tale is sure to be even more captivating than you could ever predict. On that morning, as I took a brief glance at myself in the mirror before stepping out, I was admittedly tense, yet couldn't help noticing how well I appeared despite the circumstances. Nathan's absence left a void, yet I felt lively and attractive. This was not enough to fulfill me, though. As Ethan finished his breakfast, I called out to him about his driving, which needed improvement before his college term began. "Let's head to your dad's," I instructed. He looked back at me with his usual playful smirk. "Okay, stepmom," he playfully agreed, adding a condition. "But tell Dad I need a better car for the summer." "We'll discuss it," I firmly replied, pushing him towards the door, though all I thought was, I just want this trip to be over quickly. Little did I realize that our plans would soon go awry. After driving for about 2 hours, during which Ethan amused himself with songs and light-hearted banter, our car abruptly made a terrifying hissing sound and stopped dead. "What's happening?" I asked, trying to keep calm. "Seems like the car's broken down," Ethan stated, clearly annoyed, as he manoeuvred the vehicle off the road. There we were, stuck in the middle of nowhere, virtually cut off, as our attempts to summon help proved useless. Eventually, we faced the inevitable. Our only option was to check into the nearest motel for the night. At the motel reception, while Ethan talked to the clerk, I stood back, fuming with annoyance. Thoughts of Nathan's reaction if he found out crossed my mind, but surprisingly, I wasn't as bothered by the thought as I might have been. Deep down, I sensed that this night was set to change things fundamentally. Be sure to follow along and turn on those notifications for my channel. You definitely don't want to miss what happens next. When we entered our room, all my low expectations were met with disappointment. The room was tiny, barely allowing room to turn around, equipped with only one bed, a nightstand, and a flickering overhead light that cast a gloomy glow. The ceiling was oppressively low, the air conditioning barely functional, and the only window provided a dismal view of the parking lot. "This is it?" I whispered to myself, dissatisfaction clear in my voice. Ethan, trailing behind, let out a laugh. "What did you expect? A luxury suite? It's only one night." "Chill out, stepmom," his teasing tone echoing in the cramped space. As we settled in for the night, it became clear that this minor detour was about to lead us down an entirely unexpected path. Don't go anywhere. Make sure to engage in the comments and like this video as the story continues to unfold. We're simply here for one night. Relax, stepmom. His mocking tone in his speech, along with his cheeky grin, just made my aggravation greater, but at the same time I couldn't say I fully loathed Ethan's carefree, laid-back attitude. Being around him, even though I never acknowledged it, aroused something inside me, a kind of exhilaration I didn't really understand. "This heat is killing me," I murmured, stroking the back of my neck. "I believe I need a shower, or I'm truly going to pass out." "Certainly, certainly," Ethan responded nonchalantly, flinging himself onto the bed and resting flat on his back. "This is your domain, Sophia. Do everything you need to feel at home." I gazed at him for a second. His thin yet toned form, along with the subtle boyishness of his features, gave him a weird kind of attractiveness. But I instantly attempted to throw the concept out of my brain. He was Nathan's kid after all, my stepson. I walked into the bathroom and slammed the door behind me. For a time, I just gazed at my reflection in the mirror. My hair was plastered to my skin from the heat, yet I still looked nice. I still had that spark. Turning the shower on, I let the water run and walked under it, thinking it would wash away the tangle of emotions rising up inside me. I'm 47 years old, I thought, and Ethan's not a kid anymore. He's 20, preparing to start college, and here we are, imprisoned together in this little motel room for a few days. The concept both troubled and aroused me in a manner I couldn't quite define. Nathan popped into my head. Nathan, I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to come visit you, to be with you. But now I'm here, imprisoned in this hotel room with your son, and I don't know how to feel about it. The steam from the shower filled the small bathroom, the heat calming my body even as my mind raced. Ethan's grin, his easygoing personality, was kindling something unexpected inside me. Standing under the stream of water, I couldn't tell what this spark might turn into, but I felt something was happening. Later, I decided to walk downstairs for supper and clear my thoughts a bit. I threw on a simple, flowing outfit. It was ideal for the heat, but it also made me feel a bit more at ease, like I was trying to shake off this odd tightness. The hotel restaurant was modest but homey, suited for a setting this tiny. I ordered a light lunch and a glass of wine, believing it would help me relax. The sun had fallen and the streetlights outside the motel were twinkling softly. Sitting there, I couldn't stop my thoughts from going back to the room upstairs. I wondered what Ethan was up to right now. Someone as restless and full of energy as him surely wasn't having much fun being imprisoned up in a tight room. But nevertheless, that casual attitude of his, so effortless, so carefree, was driving me mad in a manner I couldn't quite describe. When my wine was gone, I gave my dish a final glance and made my way upstairs, taking deliberate steps. When I approached the room, everything was extremely calm. I opened the door, and the image that confronted me left me briefly breathless. Ethan had taken a shower and was resting on the bed in just a robe, utterly knocked out. His half-open robe displayed most of his slender, athletic figure. His moist hair fell over his forehead, and there was a small grin on his lips, like he was dreaming. My heart started pumping. It was the last thing I anticipated to walk into. For a second I hesitated beside the entrance, unsure of what to do. Inside me there was this odd combination of feelings. I felt uncomfortable, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. Sophia, what the heck are you doing? That's Nathan's son. I reprimanded myself mentally, but my eyes betrayed me, drawn to the section of his robe that had slid more apart. What I saw aroused something warm inside me. The limited size of the room only made matters worse. There wasn't another bed. It was either sleep close to him or spend the remainder of the night in a chair, and in this heat, the concept of a chair seemed inconceivable. I moved inside the room carefully, Ethan's steady, regular breathing filling the area. I took a long breath, attempting to focus, but the pandemonium inside me made it difficult to think clearly. "Okay, Sophia," I mumbled to myself. "It's only one night, nothing more. This doesn't imply anything." I intended to surprise Nathan, and now I'm stuck here. Be sensible. Keep it together. I took a few steps nearer the bed and stared at Ethan. The innocent smile on his face just made my already convoluted thoughts even more difficult. I sat down on the side of the bed, wondering how I was going to make it through the night. In the middle of the night, a faint sound woke me up. I barely opened my eyes, just enough to search the room. I observed Ethan shifting on the bed. He appeared half sleepy, running his hands through his hair and scratching his head softly. I found myself watching him, but I kept my eyes just slightly open, pretending to still be tired. Inside, though, I felt everything from tranquility to anxiousness. Then I felt it. His eyes were on me. My heart started racing. He was observing me. I had tempted to keep up the act, maintaining the drowsy expression on my face, and staying still, but inside I was humming with activity. Slowly I proceeded to unhook the belt of his robe. As it loosened, the robe dropped off his shoulders, showing more of his toned, youthful physique. The way his muscles twitched slightly with his moves brought up a colour feeling through me. I couldn't stop myself. In that instant, I recognised two things. I had no control over what was happening, and part of me didn't even want to stop it. Ethan picked out a pair of shorts from the wardrobe. While doing so, he kept peering back at me as if trying to figure out whether I was awake. His glances got me even more eager. I was trying hard not to give anything away, but at the same time, I allowed the moment to entirely take over me. After putting on his shorts, he didn't come back to bed. Instead, he sat on the chair in the corner of the room and just started observing me. Being observed so carefully was both unnerving and sparked something unexplainable deep inside me. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to sleep, but how long could I truly keep up this act? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and sat up. When my eyes met Ethan's, I made sure my voice wavered as I said, "You're making me so thrilled, Ethan." I could feel the words hang in the air. At that moment, I realised nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's eyes fluttered for a second, then he took a big breath and proceeded to talk. "I don't know, Sophia," he answered, his voice low but steady. You've been residing under the same roof for a time now, ever since my dad's been away, and the more time we spend together, the more I feel for you. You might not know it, but sometimes I can't conceal the adoration I have for you. Right now, this feels like some kind of dream. Dream. His remarks caught me off guard, but they also sparked something inside me. Ethan wasn't looking away. His eyes held mine with a type of honesty and intensity that had me absolutely enthralled. "I need to get up early to get the vehicle fixed," he went on, though his voice sounded like he was trying to convince himself, but his eyes didn't waver, not even a little. "But right now, I just can't take my eyes off you, Sophia. I've never felt this way before." My heart was racing. In that moment, I stepped to the edge of the bed and sat down on the chair square in front of him, my eyes fixed onto his. The energy between us was so tremendous. It didn't need words. We sat there in silence for a bit before I puckered my lips slightly and set my eyes on him. "Ethan, Ethan," I answered softly, my voice holding both curiosity and a challenge. "Are we talking about the same thing?" Ethan's stare intensified, like he wanted to live this moment through feelings rather than words. He didn't reply, but the expression in his eyes told it all, and that's when I understood there was no turning back for us. As I peered into his eyes, a beer of boldness and overpowering me welled up inside me. The mix of doubt and excitement in his eyes just pushed me farther. Taking a big breath, I proceeded to speak again, my voice calm but forceful. "Ethan, Ethan," I murmured, grabbing his complete attention. "When I came into the room, you were asleep. Your robe was a bit open, and I couldn't take my eyes off you. It got to me more than I thought. We can't run from these sentiments. We both know that." As my marks hung in the air, I took a step forward and slowly stood up. His gaze followed my every move, his respiration increasing. I couldn't hold back the exhilaration rushing through me. My fingers moved for the ribbon on my dress, and as I carefully undid it, I could hear the shift in his respiration with every motion I made. I murmured, my voice lowering to a whisper. "We need to level things out as Ethan. I carefully unzipped the back of my dress. The cloth fell off my shoulders and went down to the floor. The cool air brushing over my skin just made the burning inside me flare more. The expression in his eyes told it all: surprise, adoration, and a draw he couldn't resist. The stillness between us seemed like a link now, our breaths mingling into one another. Without breaking eye contact, I took another step toward him. "Now," I continued in a quiet voice, "we'll see whether we're actually talking about the same thing." Ethan's eyes kept fixed on me, his emotions solid and full of fury. Suddenly, he rose up, never taking his focus off me, and turned on the room light. The warm illumination filled the room as he stepped over and shut the door. My heart started beating. That moment, it felt like the whole world had slowed down, leaving just the two of us. When he took a red toward me, my breathing accelerated. He looked to be attempting to read my gaze, but at the same time, he was well aware of the wordless pull between us. As he moved closer, his hands grabbed my waist, and the warmth of his touch seemed like an electric current rushing through me. Without uttering a word, he leaned forward, his gaze descending to my lips. I didn't object. I couldn't. Everything about this seemed natural, like it was supposed to happen. When his lips finally reached mine, all the tension inside me melted away. His kiss was gentle and exploratory, yet conveyed an evident intensity. My hands involuntarily sought his shoulders, feeling their strength and warmth encircle me. The distance between us entirely dissolved when our breaths combined. That moment seemed like an eruption of all the unspoken feelings between us. Ethan's freshness and vigour met with the depth of passion I had held over the years. It was the start of something, a beginning both terrible and exciting. That night, there was no disguising what we felt for one another anymore. I let myself fall back into the bed, my body weary but my thoughts racing. My breathing was still unsteady. My foot brushed across the fabric of my garment lying on the floor. I felt Ethan's eyes on me, a strong and calm intensity flowing from his stare. A minute later, he stooped down and scooped up the garment, his fingertips delicately brushing over where my foot had been. Even that simple deed shot flames through me. As he held the garment for a second, I could see a flash of hesitation on his face, but it was swiftly replaced by resolve. He tossed the clothing aside, and his hand slid to the edge of the bed. Slowly, he crawled onto the mattress, his motions meticulous, deliberate as he moved closer to me. The expression on his face reflected his sentiments, equal parts eager and magnetic desire. As I lay on the opposite side of the bed, I sensed Ethan's proximity. My heart continued to race, my breathing intensified. When I watched him bending towards me, I knew that the space between us had nearly totally evaporated. It felt as if everything had reached a breaking point. There was no turning back, and what he felt inside me at that moment was tremendous. It hurt, yet it delighted me at the same time. I looked up at the ceiling and I could see Ethan's face. I was attracted by the way he wiped back his forehead with his hand. I could see in his eyes what Ethan was experiencing. He was crimson, he was thrilled, and he was so joyful. I could see that he was doing everything with such enthusiasm, and I was struck by the way he was out of breath. Ethan had rushed me and my emotions to the point where I was delighted the automobile had broken down. "I'll never forget this hotel," Ethan muttered in his shaky voice, his words pushed out, each one as heavy as a gulp of breath. His eyes were riveted on me, his hands were trembling slightly, his body was rigid, his muscles constricting, each action a bit more meticulous and precise, as if he wished to keep a memory. "I definitely don't want Dad to sell the car now," he said, and with those words he collapsed beside me, closed his eyes, and lay silent, allowing his breathing to stabilize. I was utterly exhausted, too drained to even speak. My legs kept trembling, and I couldn't comprehend how I had managed to fall asleep. The next morning, Ethan showed up with a car and told me we needed to go fetch Nathan and head to the city where he was working. Mixed emotions overwhelmed me, sadness and confusion swirled within, yet there was also a palpable sense of excitement. Observing Ethan, his look, his actions, everything about him affected me profoundly. The situation was complex, filled with uncertainty, Yet I couldn't separate the turmoil of questions in my mind from the thrill of the unknown. One thing was crystal clear. This journey would mark a pivotal change in everything. If you're still with me, I know this story has captivated you. Don't miss the continuation. Click the follow button, activate notifications, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to hear what you think.